All right, we move on with a futurist, an author, an advisor who will be diving into the topic of sustainability. His title is One Word for Future Leaders. Stefan Hyttfors, welcome.
Hello, Andre.
Hello.
Singing from Stockholm.
Yeah, you've learned. We're connected through song now. It's great.
I'm trying my best.
Lovely. And it seems that the audio is working beautifully, the video feed as well. So the floor is yours.
Right, great. So I have a friend from Italy. His name is Sergio. And he once taught me how to know if an Italian restaurant is any good, if it's genuine. Turns out there are 4 things to look for. According to Sergio, these are the 4 golden rules of a true Italian restaurant. The first rule is no flags. Italian flags on the outside means fake Italian on the inside. The second rule, when you open the door and the strong smell of garlic hits you, that's a no-no. We never put that much garlic. Number 3, no Pavarotti music. Simple as that. And the 4th golden rule for any true Italian eatery is no pasta Alfredo. It turns out Italians are clueless by this Alfredo thing. He says linguine Alfredo, spaghetti Alfredo, tortellini. There is no Alfredo. That's how Sergio says it. So that's it. Now you know too. Of course, I know you didn't come here tonight for pasta. You want food for thought. And if you give me like 10 more minutes, I will give you something to think about. This is, I think, a powerful idea. You can use it as a golden rule. Just one for you, so it's easy to remember. You can keep it top of mind and use it like a mantra. Anytime you want to make tough priorities or make decisions. First, I'm going to create some context. This here is 2,000 years of human evolution and GDP per capita. As you know, from a GDP perspective, life was always the same. 1,700 something years, we were all dirt poor. And our problem was always the same, survival. And the work we did to solve this problem was always the same. It was about food, water, shelter, protection. If you think about something like time traveling and you take someone from back here 2,000 years ago and let them travel 1,000 years into the future, they would be fine, understand almost anything. You know, yeah, I get it. It's a fire, it's a horse, you know, food, weapon, things like that. In times like these, with slow change or no change, experience is going to be the most important asset. So experience will be passed on from generation to generation, and children will grow up to learn from their parents and then do the same job their parents did. Now, today, of course, we don't do the same job our parents did. Many of us don't even do the same job we used to do. So that all changed down here. We took a sharp turn 250 years ago, and now we're going this way, getting richer and richer. You know, just heard about Singapore. Up here, 40, 50 times as rich compared to down there. And if we think of that in terms of productivity, 50 times means a full year's of work in just 1 week. And that means we have time. For the first time ever, we have time to do something else than just survival. 49 weeks out of 50. So maybe you over there, you can, you know, you fix the food and you build the houses, and you can do something else. You can buy a microscope, study viruses. Go for it. We will call you if there is ever something like a pandemic. I mean, look at you, spending all this time today just listening to people like me sitting here talking. 200 years ago, you would have starved to death for doing this. So with this shift, the problem that keeps us awake at night has changed. It's no longer how to survive. Today's problem is how to keep up and how to learn fast enough. And if you think of time travel, but this time you take someone from down here up to us, that poor person wouldn't understand anything. Experience is not the most important asset anymore. In a fast-changing world, experience can even become a problem. So now we have to shift focus from getting and sharing experience to faster learning. And we have to create a culture bold enough to challenge experience. That's why you are here today. You know what happened down here? I mean, you see Norway is up in top, so probably some of you think it's, has something to do with Norwegians being so smart or something. Well, that's not it. We came up with a quick fix. It turns out this planet of ours is like a giant meatball, hundreds of millions of years of energy that's been stored. So we can have anything we ever wished for, as much of it as we want, right here, right now, if we just dig in on that old fossil energy in the storage space here. And with that, we have grown from being this small world on a big planet to a big, big world on a small and fragile planet. And that's why we have to shift focus. This here is CO2 emissions. 200 years back, 1 billion people on the planet, and pollution was never a problem. The problem was to survive, remember? But today, almost 8 billion of us, this is a problem. So that's the context we need to understand the basics for future-focused leadership. When I was talking to leaders 10 years back, sustainability was a problem to most companies, a cost. Today, smart leaders understand decarbonizing of the global economy. That's the greatest business opportunity of our lifetime. Now everybody wants to be the next Tesla. And lucky us, we have 49 out of 50 weeks free to do whatever we want. So now we have to use this time wisely to relearn everything we know, to transform all the old business models. And to do this, we will need leaders who understand the golden rule. The golden rule for the 21st century. This is one word that I promise you. The word is less. We need less. Less pollution, less stress, less exploitation, less harm. I know you all want more. I do too. We all want more. We want to, more growth, more profits, more market share, more victories. And I'm telling you, the way to get there in the 21st century is by focusing on how to do less. If this continues to grow, this will stop. Some of you remember this quote by Jim Barksdale. He was the CEO of Netscape. He once said like this: if we have data, let's look at the data. But honestly, if all we have are opinions, let's go with mine, okay? And I guess that's fair. If he's the boss, he will have to take responsibility. So, I mean, in the end, it's going to be his call, of course. The thing is, from now on, we will have data. So we don't have to make decisions based on the gut feeling of a CEO, and that changes everything. Let me give you an example. Which one do you prefer, Pepsi or Coke? If you're like me, it probably doesn't matter too much. These two are the same product, sort of, same price, same taste, I would say, same quality. But what if there was more data? Harvard does something they call impact-weighted accounts. So basically, they look at companies' environmental costs in relation to revenue. What's the true cost of a company to our environment? And as you can see, Coke is at minus 11.6%. That means if Coca-Cola would have to pay for environmental costs, according to Harvard, profits would go down almost 12%. And Pepsi is at minus 3%. So this is almost 4 times dirtier than this. And maybe that will change your opinion. If everybody has data, competition will be about opinions. This would be my updated version, the sort of the information age version of the Jim Barksdale quote. Price and quality, you can't compete with that anymore. I mean, in the 21st century, you want followers rather than customers or employees. And followers want to know why. Why should we join your brand and buy your products and work in your company? In 2013, I met with Casey Sheehan in San Francisco. He was the CEO of Patagonia back then. And to me, the things he talked about sounded completely different compared to most CEOs I've met. And it wasn't just, the things he said. Maybe you remember things they did, like this ad campaign. Back in 2011, Patagonia started to do anti-commercial advertising on Black Friday. So they paid media to tell customers not to buy their products. This initiative, the Common Threads initiative, it's like a partnership with customers to consume less, to focus on 4 R's: reduced consumption, repair, resale, and recycling. And today, Patagonia referred to themselves as an activist company. They have a self-imposed tax, an earth tax of 1% of all sales. And so far, they paid more than $100 million to grassroots organizations, environmental causes. And remember back when we used to say that you should never mix business and politics. Forget about that now. If you want loyal followers, you will have to talk about a whole lot more than your products. Like Patagonia, they make sure to mix business and politics as much as possible. They even filed a lawsuit against the Trump administration. As you know, in retail and clothing, competition is brutal, and they are closing stores all around the world. Global brands like H&M, they have lost half of their market cap the last 5 years. But then if you look at a company like Patagonia, they quadrupled revenue and profits the same 5-year period. How? By telling us to buy less. If you think of competition in the beverage industry is tough too. And you can, of course, say that both Coca-Cola and Pepsi are leaders. That depends on what metrics you use. But then remember the true cost to the environment. Coke is 4 times dirtier than Pepsi. And climate risk is investment risk. So I would argue Pepsi has a leading edge because they do less harm. So take my one word for future-focused leadership and remember it. Use it like a mantra. This should be with you. This should be your focus on Monday morning. Less. You need less. You need less flags. Go home, find your Italian flags and get rid of them. Less garlic, less Pavarotti music, and don't even start to think about Alfredo. Do less. Good luck.
Thank you, Stefan, for that inspiring talk. And we have the pleasure of having one of our jury members who got so excited that he's going to ask you a question. Let's welcome Hans Jansen and his question to Stefan.
Yes, Stefan. First of all, congratulations on your talk. And I will never look at a restaurant the same way. My question is, suppose you're not the boss of a company and the company is obsessed with more, higher. How do you stop the movement and make less sexy as well? How do you make it tangible? How do you make it attractive if you're not fully in charge?
Well, if you're not the manager, usually what I tell people is, sometimes we forget. When we talk about big corporations and disruption especially, it's like we forget that, there is nothing to say that big companies should survive. Why would they? If you don't have a manager that understand, this concept that I'm talking about, this is not to have lower goals, lower expectations. It's more about the attitude to how do we get there. If we focus on how to give people, a solution to this big problem, the context that I was giving, then we're probably going to get more loyal followers. If your manager doesn't understand that, well, maybe then you need to do less in that company and quit in the end and have a better boss in the future. So to me, it's all about, finding then the right environment to actually understand that I'm not talking about being less enthusiastic about my work. I'm actually talking about solving a big problem.
Thank you for that, and thank you for the appetizing introduction to an Italian restaurant. We're getting hungry over here. As a half Italian person, I truly value your quest for authenticity, which is also the key in sustainability. So thank you so very much for sharing those thoughts with us, Stefan.